word. Okay. So language arts today. We're going to work on choosing verb tense. So this is an important one. This is one that will certainly appear on your exam for your GED language arts test, and it's something that will, obviously affect your writing, and will help you. The thing about verb tense is, just like everything else in the English language, there's certain things way we do things, and then we'll break those rules again. But understanding verb tenses is really important. So let's take a look here at our lesson today.
Are we doing for reading or language arts?
What was that? I think the video is a little slow. Oh, did I not assign this? Hold on a second. Okay. Actually, let me come back to that. Let me make sure that I assign this for starters. I was having trouble hearing audio. I think it's my connection, maybe. If you guys have any trouble, barely. It might work better if you got something to put it in the chat so I can see it. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let me make sure I assign this to start with. I did not. Okay, it should pop up for you guys now. So it'll be in RLA Language Arts. The lesson is choosing verb tenses. Okay, I apologize for that. I was thinking about that yesterday when I was looking at the lesson. So I'm going to reopen this and see if we have a little better luck.
Hey again, Curtis here. I'm going to teach you about choosing verb tenses. Verb tenses show the time that something happened. This lesson is about verb tenses and avoiding unnecessary shifts in tense.
All right, I'm sorry. Nautica, it's in RLA Language Arts today. I realized I was on mute there. So yeah, it's RLA Language Arts. And again, hopefully this is coming through okay. I noticed everything sort of how it was loading was slowing down, and your guys' audio for me was kind of choppy. So if you got any questions or anything, put them in the text, make sure in the chat to make sure I see them. But let's go ahead and take a look here.
Verbs have a lot of different tenses. There are complicated verbs like will have been given, and there are simple ones like is or went. The verb tense shows when an action happens. When you write, you need to understand the different tenses and choose the one that's right for your purpose. Sometimes you need more than one tense to communicate things that happen in different times, but sometimes writers switch between tenses when they don't need to. I ran into that problem a lot when I started writing college-level papers for classes. Take a look. In his book, Professor Suarez introduces the concept of a business's mission. He wrote that the business's mission is its purpose. Do you see what I did? First, I use the present tense, introduces, then switch to the past tense, wrote. There's no reason to switch like that. It makes it sound like it happened in two different times, instead of being all a part of one book. That's why it's a problem. If you switch tenses for no reason, the reader can't keep track of your meaning. You want to establish the time you're talking about and keep it clear for the reader. Here, I'll show you more about tenses.
The first thing going on here, right? Understanding verb tense is basically the way we know when an action is happening, just like he said there. And there's several ways that we're going to be able to do that. And there's several instances of, something that is going to happen in the future, something that's continuing to happen, that started in the past. There's a whole chart on verb tenses that we'll look at before we get to the practice questions today. The other element that you want to make sure that you're doing is staying consistent. So if you're talking about something in the past, you don't want to switch tenses all of a sudden so it sounds like it's happening in the present, or worse yet, even happening in the future. And there's certain things that we tend to, it's writing. Yeah. So there's certain things that we tend to always talk about in a specific tense, which he's going to discuss a little bit about as well. So in this case, and he'll mention this, when we're talking about media, it tends to be in the present. So you would change wrote to write in this case, but he'll probably explain that here in a minute as well. For me, it was always difficult because as a historian, we always talk about things in the past. You always use past tense because you're always writing about the past. And it was kind of weird just getting used to that. And so you have to be careful, but certainly you won't want to switch tenses. You want to make sure that you're maintaining that.
How do you choose a verb tense? You probably know basic verb forms: past, present, and future. Walked to show the past. She is or she walks to show the present. She will be or she will walk to show the future. But there are more complicated tenses. Continuous tense verbs show that something happens over time. In the present, you'd say, I am walking. In the past, continuous is, I was walking. And the future continuous is, I will be walking. It shows that you were, are, or will be continuing to walk. Perfect tense verbs show that something's finished. Present perfect would be, I have walked. The past perfect is, I have walked. And the future perfect is, I will have walked. It means that in the past, present, or future, you're done walking. The perfect continuous tense combines both. I have been walking, I had been walking, I will have been walking. That means you walked for a while, but that in the past, present, or future, you're done.
All right, is everybody confused yet? It's a little weird to hear somebody explain it. We'll get to the table here in a minute, and it will make a lot more sense.
There's more information about verb tense in the resources. When you write, you choose a verb tense that shows your meaning. When did what you're writing about happen? What perspective are you writing from? If you're writing a paper or formal essay, choose one tense as your main perspective. If I'm writing a paper about history, maybe I'd use the past tense, like World War II was a turbulent time. If I'm writing about current politics, then I'd use the present tense, like the Electoral College is an outdated idea. One thing to keep in mind when you're writing about a novel or book, write about the content in the present tense. So, if I'm writing about George Orwell's book 1984, I might write, Winston Smith lives in a world that's always at war. It's like the content of the book is never in the past. It never changes. It's in the present. Do you think you can do that?
And not just with books, but most media. So television shows, movies, if you're discussing them, you talk about them in the present tense, even if it's an old movie, which I think we can actually get an example in the practice questions with that. So
try to figure out verb tenses. What is the best change to make in these sentences?
All right, so this is one that we already saw, and we talked about a little bit. So in his book, Professor Suarez introduces the concept of business's mission. He wrote that the business's mission is its purpose. So we need to make that all present tense. In this case, that second sentence, wrote, is making that past tense. We want to change that to write instead of wrote. Right? Okay.
Great job. The rest of the passage is in the present tense, and when you write about the content of a book, you should write about them in the present tense. In these sentences, it's best to change wrote to the present tense.
Okay.
I guess you've got the idea that you should keep with one tense most of the time. So for the most part, once you choose a tense, don't change it. Take a look at this sentence. The U.S. was reluctant to enter World War II until Japan chooses to bomb Pearl Harbor in 1941. What's wrong with this sentence? It's not just that it uses the present tense, chooses. to talk about something that happened in 1941. It's also that the writer switches from past tense was to present tense chooses. There's no good reason to switch tenses. If you don't have a good reason, stick with the tense you chose. That doesn't mean you never switch tenses, though. Here, take a look at this sentence. In The Hobbit, when Bilbo returns to Hobbiton, his adventures have changed him. The first part of the sentence uses a present tense verb, returns. The second part uses a present perfect verb, have changed. Why does it change tense? Because at the point in time when Bilbo returns to Hobbiton at the end of the book, his adventures are done. He's already changed. What if you use the present tense? In The Hobbit, when Bilbo returns to Hobbiton, his adventures change him. That's not right. It changes the meaning to seem like Bilbo only changes after he gets back to Hobbiton, not during his adventures. Don't let Dwayne hear you say that. It's not the right tense because it's not the right meaning. Here's another example. Mathematician Kathleen Johnson, who was portrayed in the film Hidden Figures, helped the U.S. land on the moon in 1969. See how the sentence changes tenses? It says she is in the film Hidden Figures, but she helped the U.S. land on the moon. This switch in tenses shows two different times. In the past, in 1969, she helped with the moon landing, but in the present, she is a character in a movie. Just like with a book, you'd normally talk about a movie's plot in the present tense. So, can you tell when you should switch tenses and when you shouldn't? I bet you can.
And of course, usually when you're shifting tenses in a sentence, it's going to be like a complete phrase at the very least, maybe even an entire independent clause. But yeah, so that's something to look for as well. And let's see here, one more knowledge check, and then we'll take a look at
this sentence.
Different tenses.
What is the best change to make?
All right, so although I have had bad luck in the past, I am still a lucky person. So we actually aren't going to change anything here. There's no change. So again, I have had bad luck in the past. I am still a lucky person. So no change.
Great job. The tenses in this sentence make sense. In the past, the writer has had bad luck. In the present, the writer is still lucky. Although the sentence uses two tenses, it's because the sentence talks about two different times.
Yeah. So let's actually take a look at our verb tenses here before we do our practice questions. And this is exactly what he was explaining earlier, but it's kind of hard to see it. A visual here helps a little bit in understanding those different tenses and how they work. So the straightforward, simple past, present, and future tense, right? So with the word like work, we know we change we add that suffix ed on a lot of our verbs to make them past tense. So in this case, she worked yesterday, right? It's telling us when she worked. All of that work was completed yesterday. She worked yesterday. With present tense, it's either work or works, depending on the subject verb agreement. And that's something else that we'll get into as far as when it comes to plural or singular subjects and plural and singular nouns. But the straightforward present tense, I work at the store, or Chico works at the travel agency. Okay, present tense. Future tense, we add will. We haven't done it yet, so nothing has happened with that action. Marco will work tomorrow, or Marco is going to work tomorrow. Either one of those would be satisfactory. So now we get into perfect tenses. So this means that action is finished or completed. It uses a form of to have and a past tense, usually ed, in all cases, whether it's past tense, present tense, or future tense. But the reason you use that ed like it was a past tense is because everything in that action has been completed. So in the past tense, Kim had worked there before. Okay, so you see the difference. That is establishing that she had, that work had been completed at a different time. She had worked there before, or they had worked hard in the past. That work has all been completed at a different time. Laura has worked all week. Okay, so there, that work is completed, but she worked all week. So she has worked, right? We use had for the past tense perfect or perfect past tense. We use has or have for present perfect tense. Laura has worked all week. They have worked 3 days. Okay. Will have worked. So in the future, Tina will have worked 60 hours by Friday. So that work is going to be completed when she works 60 hours by Friday. Mia and Ann will have worked 200 hours by the end of the month. A little different here. So using had, has, or will have means the work is completed at a particular time. So by Friday, Tina will have completed 60 hours of work. That work, whatever that action is completed and finished. Continuous tense means that those work is ongoing. Okay, so instead of using had or has, have for present tense or will have, we use was or am or will be for continuous, right? So you can see the difference there. That's ongoing work. Kim was working yesterday. They were working on an experiment. Okay, so instead of just that simple Kim worked yesterday, it's continuing that it's leaving that action open-ended as if it's not yet completed. Kim was working yesterday. In the present tense, I am working today. Okay, like if you text somebody, hey, what are you doing? I am working today. Right, they're in the midst of that action. That is an ongoing action. They're in the midst of it at the moment. Connie is working at the video store. They are working at a new company. So those are is verbs or be verbs that you're using there. So am, is, are, right? It's just depending on who you're talking about, whether it's first person, or you're talking about somebody else, or you're talking about a group. And then will be working, right? So continuously, Lily will be working on Friday. She will be working all day. Or, that work is continuing through the day. Andy and Lou will be working soon. So that work has not started, but it's going to be, and it'll be ongoing. Perfect continuous. So finished or completed after being ongoing. This, use sparingly. It adds both those sort of be verbs and either a form of has to it. So Klaus had been working all weekend. Angela and Ron had been working on the presentation. So, it's showing that it's completed, but that work had been going on, for a certain time. She has been working nonstop until today. Okay, in the present perfect continuous, or they have been working every day. And then the future tense will have been working. By the conference, he will have been working every day for a month. Or by dinner, they will have been working 18 hours straight. So the idea behind these verbs, right? Obviously, the simple one, most straightforward, is telling you exactly when that action took place. Either, yes, a time in the past, in the present, or in the future. Perfect tense means that work, not only is it showing you when it occurred, but that work has been finished. Right? That's the difference in perfect as opposed to simple. And the other way to the last thing there is continuous. So we can also show that work is still going on. Does that make sense for everybody? That's a lot to chew on there.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
Yeah, it's things that we start thinking about sort of instinctively, and the more you hear it, the more comfortable you get with it. But I like I always do when we have like a resource like this, I will post it as part of our Google Classroom entry today, and of course you guys have access to this as well. So it's something always that you could use at any time to reference if you're having any type of confusion about that. So it's just basically adding to not just when that action occurred, but you could look at it as the status of that action, whether that work's been completed, whether it's ongoing, or whether it's basically happening at a certain point where it had been completed. That's the way to look at it. Okay, back to our lesson. So let's take about 10 minutes to work through our practice questions here. And I'll give you guys some time there. So go ahead and work independently. See if you can make your way through.
Good work on those exercises.
Practice questions.
Now it's time to do some.
And then we'll take a look at them together. All right.
Yeah, mine is not supporting like that. No, I did not get anything.
It didn't. Did everybody else? Did it show up for you guys? Okay. Let me take a look here, Debbie. Let me see.
It's like this.
Let me see here. Are you in Essential Ed?
Yeah.
I need to get a good look.
Okay. I got it, but when I click the video, it will not come. It's surrounding like something. Is it?
Yes, I do have my.
Oh, is it just like, like working? Maybe try exiting out of it and reopening it, or refreshing your page.
Okay.
It just seems like it's stalled. It could actually be Essential Ed today that's running slow. You guys let me know if you got any other questions.
Maybe I have to try my phone.
I'm done with it, but I got one wrong.
Okay. All right, we'll give everybody else a few minutes. We'll take a look here. No worries. That's actually pretty good.
I think I'm okay with language, but the reading is a problem for me.
I caught about half of that. What was the first part?
I said I'm okay with the language, but reading, I think that is where my problem is.
Yeah. It's hey, I've mentioned this too, like conversationally, we do really well. Sometimes when we see things in text, and have to think about, again, I've been doing this for 40 years, learning English, and there's still things that I miss from time to time. But particularly when it comes to actually slowing down and breaking things down. So that's certainly understandable. And of course, we're going to get you guys there.
Okay.
All right, we'll take another 3 or 4 minutes here, and then we'll take a look at our questions here.
All right.
Okay, when you guys finish up, I'm going to stop my video and take a moment here to cough and blow my nose and get some water. So I'll be right back. Okay. Oh, okay. Let's go ahead and take a look here. And did I start recording? Okay, I am recording. Okay. Yeah, I'm thankful. I just was thinking about, it's many times I've spent in an actual classroom as a teaching assistant and teaching at OU. How many times I got sick and had to, go into a classroom, and I don't know now how I did that, and not just make everybody sick. But of course, they were probably the ones that made me sick to start with. So I guess we're fortunate here, right? We're all separated. Our social distancing has worked, so none of you guys are getting what I got. So anyway, let's take a look at our questions here. So our first one: what is the best change to make to our sentence here? Last Saturday, I had been running a race for 4 hours. So yeah, we need to change that to had been running. Or I'm sorry, change had been running to ran. So the idea here, right, one thing that we can see, just like everything else, we look for signal words. So when we see last Saturday, we know that that happened in the past. And we're making it basically just that simple tense. All we need to do is say, last Saturday, I ran a race for 4 hours. Using had been running, use those perfect tenses. Does it work here? We just want to simply say that at this day, on this time, or at this place, I ran. So that is a simple fix. A simple past tense is what we want to use here. And again, that's one of those funny words where, some verbs we use that ed to make past tense. In a verb like run, we change it to ran. Wait a minute. Whoa. I hit the wrong thing. Oh. Okay, I just hit the wrong choice. I was right though. It is changing that to, that was my mistake. Yeah, I just hit the wrong box. Still the correct idea there, that you want to change it. Last Thursday, I ran a race for 4 hours. You're changing had been running to ran. I just accidentally hit the wrong box. That's on me. Sorry about that. Okay. Oh yeah, I didn't look at the whole phrase. We're changing the whole phrase, not just the word. So here today, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 continue to monitor our solar system. Starting in 2020, however, the two probes conserve energy by powering down instruments. So what we're doing here is changing conserve to will conserve. So if you run into something like this on a test, you have to be careful, because it depends on when they printed that test and made it, right? So here, the way this is worded, we have to understand that 2020 was in the past. Or, I'm sorry, it hasn't happened yet, right? So this is looking to the future. So today, when this was actually written, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 continue to monitor our solar system. This should tip you off, starting in 2020. So you can tell right away, okay, this is an action that has yet to occur, starting in 2020. However, the two probes will conserve energy by powering down instruments. So an action that has not taken place yet, right? Future tense. So we use will to describe that it's going to happen later down the road. Hasn't started yet. It's not continuing. Simple future tense. So we change conserve to will conserve. Make sure I'm on the right one this time. Yes. Yeah, so conserve by itself is just present tense. So when we're talking about action that's going to happen in the future, we want to use will conserve. Okay. Aha. So we talked about movies and books, right? Media. So here we know, there's two spoilers in these 8 questions. I'll tell you right now, we're getting Star Wars spoiled, and if you haven't seen The Sixth Sense, you're going to get that spoiled too. So in the movie Star Wars, the hero destroys a giant space station. So if you haven't seen Star Wars, now you know how that movie is. But right, we talk about media in the present tense. This movie was made in premiered in 1977. Everything that happened there was a long time ago. The galaxy, no, anyway. Yeah, it happened a long time ago, but we're talking about media, books, television shows, anything like that we talk about in the present. Just like the actions that are taking place in the book, you can think about like that in the book or in your TV show are happening as you're watching them, right? They're happening in the present. So destroys will be present tense. Okay.
Nice. You got 2 out of 3 correct.
I should have got
that
all
tells
of
me
them.
you understand.
Go on. Okay. So One World Trade Center completed construction on August 30th, 2012, replacing the World Trade Center, which was destroyed by terrorist attack in 2001. That's all. Everything there is good. We don't need any change. So One World Trade Center completed construction on August 30th, 2012. So past tense, simple past tense, right? Replacing the World Trade Center, which was destroyed by terrorist attack in 2001. So also past tense there, no change. All right, was the best verb to use here? As I tied my shoe, I blank the mnemonic my mother taught me as a child. So I was recalling. Okay. Yeah, so be here. I was recalling. Yeah, so shows that recalling happened over a period of time. So it's not a singular event. So it's a past period of time, writer tied their shoe. So this is the appropriate tense, was recalling. Oh, and here is our second spoiler alert. If you've never seen The Sixth Sense, and if you haven't seen it, you should, because it's a great movie. During the movie The Sixth Sense, Dr. Crow seems like an ordinary therapist, but in Act 3 of the film, learns that Crow died in Act 1, and he's actually but you know what? That movie's like 20 years old. So if you don't know what happens in Sixth Sense yet, I guess you can't expect to not be spoiled. I just thought that was funny, because that was always like one of the big spoilers. Nobody spoils the Sixth Sense for people because it's such a big moment in the movie. But anyway, yeah. So past tense, simple past tense. Dr. Crow died in Act 1. That's such a good movie. Okay. So once I get my car paid off, I will sell it to my brother-in-law, right? Future tense, future simple tense. That's an action that will take place in the future. So I will sell it.
I will sell.
Yeah, will sell. And again, that's one of those that we have two different tenses in. So once I've paid my car off, so I have not, and that's a continuous action, right? I have paid my car off, or completing that action, I should say. So past tense there, and then we move to future tense. So once I've done this action, I will have sold it. So, or will sell it. Okay, and the final one here. Yesterday, when I called Alice, she said, I
am cleaning the pool.
Yeah. That's the use of two different tenses again, right? So explaining when I called Alice. So called, signaling past tense. That's an event that occurred, yesterday or whenever it happened in the past. What she said to me, though, right? So that's a direct quote, and we're going to use present tense there. So exactly what Alice said to me when I talked to her, I am cleaning the pool right now. So an action that was occurring at that moment in the present tense. There we go. Okay. Oh. Let's see what we have to hear.
Thanks for taking this lesson. Verb tenses can get confusing, but just try to follow a few guidelines. First, make sure your tense matches the time you're talking about. Second, try to use the simplest verb that makes sense for when something's happening. That will make your writing more clear. Third, don't change tenses for no reason, but you'll need to change the tense if you're talking about two different times. The most important thing is that your writing is clear to the reader, and that means being clear about when things are happening. And that's what tenses tell you. Click results to see how you did on the lesson.
Yeah, I think mostly where people get in trouble with tenses is switching them, and just for no reason, right? You're just not maintaining the tense that you're talking in. So that's just something to watch for. And he says, we're not, trying to reinvent the wheel here. Keep things simple. And if I always say this to students, if something doesn't feel right in the way you've structured a sentence, restructure it so it does sound right. That's the simplest thing to do. I do that a lot. I'm thinking, wait, that doesn't sound right. Is that right? I'll just restructure my sentence, or break it into two sentences, whatever I have to do there to work around that if I'm unclear about how, about the rule at that point. But so as I mentioned, I will post the that table with the different types of tenses, and that's always good information for reference. Of course, with you having access to this assignment, you can also look at that and pull that up as well. Any questions on verb tense?
Yes, my question is on social studies.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you can recommend any GED book on social studies that I can read at home.
Yeah, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Rachel has a lot of resources and knows a lot about those things. Ask her tomorrow and see what she says. Tell her that Matt told me to ask you about social studies books and resources, because she's really the go-to for that. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything. Kaplan is a publisher that makes a lot of things, and is trustworthy. McGraw-Hill is a publisher. Let me see what's available, and I'm going to go ahead and write that down. Some sort of solid things. The library has a ton of resources. So anything that's GED preparatory, and honestly, if you find it in the library particularly, that's usually a good bet that it's going to be close to, it's going to be reliable. So, but let me look at that. And again, Rachel's really, 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 really good with that stuff. So she'll have some things that she can offer you as well. But I'll follow up with you tomorrow too. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right. No problem. All right. So we'll call it a day here. And we will do some RLA reading tomorrow for language arts and a little more history in social studies. So guys, I really want to thank you for showing up. And I know it's been a struggle for me. And the class has been a little bit short, but I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys sort of give me some words of encouragement to get better. And hopefully I'm on the mend here now, so it'll get better as we go along. So I'll see you all tomorrow. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. See you. Bye.